Guys, Snoop video, and today we're actually talking about advanced sliders and settings for realistic Madden 22 gameplay. So we are going to be talking more so and specifically about gameplay. So this franchise is going to be depicted off of actual gameplay, not sim franchises. So we're going to be going into and covering everything talking about league settings, XP sliders, and gameplay sliders. Now I'm going to show you guys first off. I'm just going to go in order starting with league settings. So yeah, keep in mind that this is not for sim. This is more so for playing out your franchises. Now this could be even playing the moments, but at least having some sort of gameplay. So we're going to start out with skill level here, and this again, this is completely based off of where you feel like you're at. I'm just kind of in that test area to where I'm kind of just feeling the game out type of thing. So right now I'm at all pro, but I can easily go all the way up to all Madden, which is the highest difficulty. But I feel like I kind of want to have more fun within the game. But again, with the game style, keeping it more realistic with simulation. Simulation, again, as you guys can see there to the right, authentic experience, which is going to give you the most realistic comfortability of gameplay. As close as it can to real life. So again, simulation is the best way to go. But wherever you guys are, it really doesn't matter. But All Pro, at least be at All Pro, guys. Give that a shot. I feel like you can have a lot of fun in this mode, but still, the CPU can always give you a challenge in All Pro. But All Madden, this is where it definitely, my fault, guys. This is where, again, at skill level, this is really rangy. Depending on where you guys feel like you're at, I would start All Pro and then work your way up from there. And then just moving our way down the ladder here, trade deadline obviously should be on. This is something that, again, realistically wise, if you guys are in a realistic franchise and you are playing out your games, trade deadline is the way to go to be on, because you don't want to be trading when, the trade deadline has already passed. That's obviously not realistic. And then let's go to salary cap. Again, something that should belong into an unrealistic franchise. Salary cap is something that would turn down just all cap scenarios, and you'd be able to trade, sign, do whatever you want. Specifically talking about your money. So there's no actual money restriction. You can do whatever you want. So obviously having salary cap on is the biggest number one to have on for a realistic gameplay franchise. What else do we have here? Injury, obviously on. Pre-existing injury, I have off. This doesn't really depict the injury, but I have this off because I want you guys, and even for myself when I'm opening up franchises, I want to be able to play with everybody. So let's say a player in real life right now is injured, and you go into a franchise mode and you can't, unfortunately, use that player because in a franchise because he's actually injured. So we want to keep this off so we can have full range of our players, all players for every single team. So keep this off, guys, just to have more fun gameplay wise and to be able to use all the players. I feel like that's still wise to have this off. And then same thing with progressive fatigue. Fatigue is realistic. These guys are going to get tired. Practice injury should be on. That is a new thing this year for practice reps within your starters, or if you want to split those. That is more so, and again, I covered that with a previous video, but practice is more so for gaining more XP towards your players. So go check that video out if you haven't, on all the new Madden 22 franchise features, but practice injury have on because, again, that's realistic. And then breakout scenarios always have on because, again, development is a huge thing in this game. We want to have this on. Development, trait regression on. Obviously, older guys are going to age and they're going to, decline in terms of skill level and the way they play. So obviously, let's have that on. And then these three. Now, these three are set at 50, then 75, and 400. I'm kind of in that range of still, again, testing things out. Again, this is the first video towards all these sliders and settings, so a lot of testing is going to be happening. And let me know in the comments if you guys agree with this or disagree for the first video of Madden 22 for this stuff. So, and if you guys have different stuff, let me know. But For desired X factor went up +5 just because of how realistic we're making things. Again, dev players, I went up +5. For superstars, same things apply. And then I went up +10 for star dev just because star dev, normal to star, is a huge up. So you're going to have development trait scenarios to improve upon your players through messages with your coaches and even players themselves. So there's going to be goals there to complete, and I feel like upping that status right there for star dev doesn't make a huge impact, but it's a step in the right direction in terms of getting on the board for at least a development trait. So I feel like going up +10 right there over Superstar Dev and X Factor is a good way to go. Quarter length 6, I'm not going to really touch a lot of this type of stuff because a lot of this stuff is manual and we already do every year anyways. And then I'm just going to go quickly into tutorial pop-ups. This is a very annoying thing that kind of just pops up every single franchise if you guys leave this on. So make sure you guys are leaving that off, unless you guys want to hear the same voice every franchise you open. So next thing we're opening is XP sliders. Now, again, all these are a work in progress, but these are realistic. So I'm just going to run through the board here. You guys can always pause the video, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do. I might run through a couple positions briefly here. Quarterbacks, I have at 85. Obviously, quarterbacks are one of the most key and focal positions when it comes in time for skill points at the end of the year, or as you reckon them up through the year. So quarterbacks are something that obviously all these positions start at 100 XP percentage points, but let's knock this down by 15 because I feel like, again, this position is very keyed on and you can get a lot of skill points. And stat-wise, they're going to be, giving you some of the biggest stats and putting up points on the board. So we're going to lower that because they can do a lot for your franchise. Let's see what else. Wide receivers, your number 1 and even your number 2, I've seen in sim franchises, but I'm not sure exactly for gameplay yet. But I know wide receivers, and I only knocked this down by 5, but wide receivers are something that, obviously they can make crazy catches, and I'm specifically talking about gameplay here. They can make crazy aggressive catches, crazy spec catches. They can do a lot of crazy stuff, rat catches. So a lot of this stuff in gameplay is crazy. You can be doing crazy things with a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 in your team. So I knocked this down by 5, but I'm going to leave it at that. Offensive linemen, I want them to play a little better. I love offensive linemen. I always think they set up your franchise in terms of protecting your everything, honestly, your quarterbacks, your running backs. I believe that's the offensive lineman is the success to your quarterbacks and running backs and how they perform, so I believe their development is huge. Defensive line is kind of hard to upgrade, so I kind of went up in that. Middle linebackers is something that I lowered down by 20 because as a user, and if you have a decent user, and more so, there's a decent amount of linebackers out there, but this is a easy position to upgrade. It always is, honestly. And you can even throw a strong safety over to middle linebacker. There's just numerous ways that you can develop a middle linebacker. Same thing for outside linebacker. You can throw a safety outside to linebacker, and you can do a lot of stuff with that and move guys around. And I've been noticing performance-wise that a lot of these guys are doing really good this year outside linebacker. And then secondary has always been kind of the same thing, guys. I lowered this down for some of these. I don't have it the same for all of these, but corners, again, super duper easy to develop. Enough said. I mean, they lead your team in picks. Free safeties, I have them a little higher only because they're less dependent on picks, and they just more so roam the field. So it's kind of hard to get them going stat-wise. Strong safeties are more so later in your tackle department, but you can also have a strong safety linebacker hybrid like a Jamal Adams. So I lowered this down all the way to 87 because I feel like this is also a position that you can develop rather handily and easily. Moving on to the last part, which is probably the most anticipated in terms of this video and gameplay. So we're going to head down into gameplay sliders here. And now, again, this is also a work in progress. But just keep in mind, I have all the CPU skill and the player skill for offense and defense. So as we can see here, QB accuracy at 46. Again, these all start at 50. Just a quick heads up for you guys. But quarterback accuracy is 46. I lowered that by a bit. Pass blocking is a little lower. Wide receiver catching, I just talked about it a minute ago, but again, crazy ag catches, which is aggressive catches. If you press triangle or do crazy things like that, and I have a crazy receiver on my team in Allen Robinson, he'd be able to make insane catches against easy CPU corners. So I feel like it's fair to lower this down almost 10. Run blocking, I have pretty high, but I have more fumbles. Um, and then for defense side of the ball, I have more pass defense reaction time and good pass coverage, but I have less interceptions for my players, so they're not going to get their hands on the football as much, but they will react a little better. But when I do mean a little better, I am lowering these from 50 to 48, but you'll see that in comparison to the CPU skill, and it's going to outweigh itself when you guys are doing gameplay. So that is better. And then they have less interceptions, though, and not great tackling. But moving on to the CPU skill side of the ball, again, more QB accuracy. Now, this is kind of flipped, and I feel like this is as balanced as I can get it realistically wise and for gameplay. But QB accuracy is at 48. Pass blocking is at 46. So again, higher for passing wise, and then wide receiver catching is at 43. Again, higher because they deserve it though. Again, for CPU skill, and you're playing against CPU corners, and you have a decent receiver, you can just throw it up and it's easily completed. It's easy gameplay, especially in All Pro. Now I'm gonna end up probably going up to All Madden, but whatever it is, it's just super duper easy and it's unfair. So I feel like now I lowered this down a lot too because it can get glitchy. But you can always, as a player, you can always circle triangle to switch on it. But wide receiver catching is 43 right there over 41. So I don't want that to get too much of a difference maker right there in terms of CPU skill over the player. Run blocking 45. Now, this is where I do have it lower, though. So they have better pass offense, but the run is, not as good as me. But here's the catch. So they're going to have better run blocking. They're going to do better, or they're going to have less with run blocking there, as you guys can see up top. But for fumbles, they have 50 and I have 53. So they're not going to be as effective running the football CPU skill-wise, but they will have less fumbles. I just kept that at the regular 50. So I felt like that was fair. Now, here it is. Again, very, very balanced with this one. So I had more pass defense and reaction time. So as you guys can see with that, they have less. So I lowered that by 4. So pass defense, reaction time, and pass coverage, I believe these should be at the same at 44. And as you guys can see up here, they're at both 48, but they do have 47 interceptions. I have 45, so I kind of knocked that up a couple with that, and their tackling is a 46, and I'm a 42, so again, 4 higher there. So as you guys can see, I'm pretty balanced in how I'm doing things, and I'm kind of favoring the CPU in other ways that you guys can realize here, but I feel like that helps overall gameplay wise. And again, if you guys are starting with All Pro, I feel like this is a very good route to go with for you guys. And then for special teams, I'm strictly kind of going to leave these up to you guys. I have these all at the regular. I didn't touch any of these after tackling for the CPU skill. I didn't touch anything starting in special teams all the way down through penalties. Now, we'll be coming out with more of these, so I'll be able to go through more of these. But that's what we have so far for the first realistic gameplay sliders and settings video. So hopefully, this video did reach out and help a lot of you guys out there. And again, if it did, make sure you guys are leaving a like and sub down below. Now, again, if you want to see other future videos, or you want to recommend a video, leave that down below too. I can, make a video on that. But, let me know what you guys are rocking with in terms of sliders and settings this early. And again, if you guys agree or disagree with this video. But again, that will wrap up for today's video. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next one.